A band of heroes ventures into the dark forest on a quest to reclaim their homeland. Each carries a mighty regalia, a weapon that grants them strength beyond human limits. Confident in their abilities, they are ready to face the terrifying dark beasts living within the forest. But the moment they arrive, their driver is violently hurled into the abyss by one of the beasts. The rest of the group leaps into action as their leader, Stefan, commands them to form up and charge directly into the heart of the dark beast's lair. One of the heroes, Katz, carves through the monsters with his whirlwind technique, tearing down anything in his way. Meanwhile, Stefan decapitates a massive snake-like creature with his blade, but despite losing its head, the serpent still lunges at him. Just in time, Alicia drives her sword through its eye, delivering the final blow. So far, the team's holding their own, with the weaker monsters now taken care of. They push further into the cave in search of the Beast Lord. Eventually, they reach the cave's core, only to come face to face with Clevites, and the moment they feel its aura, they know this fight will be brutal. The sheer pressure radiating from the beast is overwhelming. Stefan remains confident that with their regalia and teamwork, they can take down anything, even a monster like this. But teamwork won't be enough this time. As they rush in to attack, Clevites swats Stefan into a wall with terrifying force. Panic sets in as the group realizes their strongest warrior has been killed. Still, the tank steps up. Convinced he can turn the tide, he leaps into the air to strike, only to be instantly decapitated before his blade even comes down. The rest of the team is finally starting to grasp that a head-on fight isn't going to work, but by then, it's already too late to retreat. Clevites has started eliminating them one by one using his tail. Confusion spreads among the group as they struggle to understand how he's moving so fast. That's when Alicia notices that the attacks are coming from their own shadows. She quickly shouts for everyone to jump, hoping to break the connection and put some space between them and the deadly strikes. Thanks to her quick reflexes, she deflects the beast's blow and stays alive. Unfortunately, the others aren't as fortunate. One of the remaining heroes tries to summon an earth dragon golem by driving his spear into the ground, but it becomes clear the ground is under Clevites' control. As a result, the summoning fails, and several tails erupt from the earth, cutting him to pieces. The lance wielder attempts a full-on charge, hoping to overwhelm Clevites, but while he's desperately fighting for his life, Clevites calmly wonders how such fragile humans even made it into his domain. With little effort, he eliminates the remaining heroes, leaving only Alicia alive. She's been dodging non-stop, using her sword to stay just out of harm's way. After a relentless effort, she finally gets close enough to strike Clevites' horn, but even her most powerful blow barely leaves a mark. Meanwhile, Clevites remains lost in thought, baffled by the sheer foolishness of humans invading his domain after 1,000 years of peace. Still, if they insist on provoking him, he'll have to come up with a lasting way to keep them away. But first, he needs to handle Alicia. With a swift motion, he cuts her leg and sends her plummeting to her death. Not long after, Clevites shows up at the human kingdom. Burning with vengeance, he had no intention of interfering with the human world, as long as they stayed out of his, but they couldn't resist trying to invade his territory based on what the heroes said before the battle. It was the king of Haydn who sent them. So now, Clevites intends to pay the king a visit and have a serious word with him about it. The kingdom's archers quickly respond to the threat and prepare to take down Clevites, but as expected, their arrows are completely useless against him. Still, despite the obvious gap in power, they keep firing as if it might somehow make a difference. Clevites originally planned to ignore the rest of the humans. He only came for the king, but now that they've chosen to attack him, he mercilessly cuts them down as he makes his way to the castle. The castle guards scramble to ready their defenses, turning their catapults toward Clevites, but just like the archers' attacks, their weapons are completely ineffective. Clevites tears through the castle walls like they're made of paper. Inside the castle, a guard rushes to warn the king about Clevites' assault, but the king has already heard the destruction unfolding outside and knows exactly what's happening. The heroes he sent clearly failed, and it's obvious now that the weapons of Haydn weren't ready to take down Clevites. He understands the Clevites is likely coming straight for him, and there's no point in trying to escape. Clevites would find him no matter where he went. Still, even if death is inevitable, the king is determined to seal off the forge and ensure the flames of Haydn never die out. Meanwhile, outside the castle, Clevites is confused by how weak these humans are compared to the heroes who confronted him earlier. At first, he assumed they might have undergone some kind of elite training, but after the castle's guards launch metal ballistas at him, he realizes that their strength came from their weapons. Reflecting on the battle, he remembers how Alicia's sword, despite doing minimal damage, managed to leave a mark on his horn, something that should have been impossible. Though humans are little more than insects to him, even an insect armed with such a weapon could pose a threat. Realizing this, Clevitus decides he must investigate the source of their power. Meanwhile, deep within the castle, the king makes his way to inspect the forge of Haydn. But before he can do much, the walls around him start to tremble. Realizing that Clevitus is close, he quickly seals off the forge. Just moments later, Clevitus smashes through the castle roof with his tail, and the moment he lays eyes on the king, he calls him out directly. The king tries to maintain his composure, insisting that Clevitus has no right to address him so disrespectfully. But Clevitus quickly shuts him down, warning him to mind his tone, because if he truly wanted to, he could erase all of humanity in a heartbeat, and not just the people of Haydn, but those in the surrounding kingdoms too. He points out that he spared the king so far, but even killing him wouldn't solve the problem. Eventually, another ruler would rise and once again threaten Clevitus's domain. So, Clevitus gives the king of Haydn a single chance to explain himself. He demands to know why the heroes were sent to attack him, but instead of offering a real answer, the king arrogantly says a beast like Clevitus could never comprehend anything. That's all Clevitus needs to hear. Without another word, he decapitates the king and begins plotting to erase humanity from existence. As he leaves the ruined city, Clevitus stumbles upon a crying baby whose mother has been trapped beneath collapsed rubble. Clevitus feels no pity for the child. He chooses to ignore it and keep walking. But then the dying mother calls out to him, begging Clevitus to save her baby. Clevitus is taken aback by the mother's request. He reminds her that he was the one who destroyed the kingdom and has already resolved to exterminate all humans. Then, why would he ever spare a human child? The mother acknowledges his reasoning, yet she argues that even if the adults brought his wrath upon themselves, her child is innocent and doesn't deserve to die. Clevitus mentions that to him all humans are equally worthless, so her argument pointless. Still, he asks if she can prove that the child has any value. The mother realizes she has no way of convincing Clevitus, especially with her death fast approaching. Still, she vows that if he spares the baby, he'll one day see its true value for himself. Shortly after, she passes away, and Clevitus leaves without a hint of emotion. Yet, he eventually returns for the child, suggesting that her final words did leave an impression on him. He's still uncertain whether taking the baby is a wise decision, but given how brief a human life is compared to his own, he figures it won't make much of a difference. Driven by curiosity, he decides to take care of the child for now. In the land of Edthia, 5 humanoid races coexist. The first are the Duns, a kingdom renowned for their architectural prowess and tactics. Next are the Orgites, a people known for their expertise in hunting and medicine. The Sladens are aquatic beings, adept at swimming and fishing. Then there are the Benti, a barbaric race inhabiting the wastelands. They are powerful individuals, but hopeless at cooperation, even in dire circumstances. And lastly, there is the kingdom of Haydnians, the most ancient of the humanoid races, masters of weapon forging, creators of the legendary blades of Haydn. While Edthia is vast, the world beyond its borders is shrouded in endless darkness, home to the dark beasts and their 4 lords, including the fearsome Clevitus. Because of this, no human has ever ventured beyond Edthia's edges. Back in his cave, Clevitus brings the baby along with him. After frightening off all the beasts to ensure the child doesn't get eaten, he lies down beside him to rest. However, he's unsure what to do next. He could share some of his energy to keep the baby healthy and avoid the risk of him dying anytime soon. But at the moment, the baby is covered in poop. Clevitus didn't plan on dealing with something like this, so without hesitation, he picks up the baby and drops him into a pit full of insects. The baby bursts into tears instantly, but Clevitus calmly tells him there's no danger. The insects only feed on poop. He put the baby in there to get him cleaned up. Still, that doesn't make the experience less terrifying. Even after pulling the baby out, the crying doesn't stop, and Clevitus is quickly growing tired of the non-stop noise. Still, as a dark beast lord, he can't just abandon the choice he's made. But if the child is going to survive, he'll need a human caretaker. So, Clevitus heads over to the corpses of the heroes he defeated, hoping one of them might still be of some use. A short while later, Alicia regains consciousness and finds herself gazing up at the sky, confused because she distinctly remembers dying. She starts to question whether she's in the afterlife, but when she notices Clevitus nearby, she realizes she's still inside his cave. Out of reflex, she reaches for her sword, only for Clevitus to inform her that he already tossed all the weapons and the bodies of her comrades into the depths of the crevasse. He explains that she seemed like she might be useful, so he chose to bring her back to life. At this point, Alicia is essentially a walking corpse, only able to move because of the dark energy Clevites infused into her. He then orders her to be useful and produce some milk to feed the baby. It takes her a moment to fully grasp what he just demanded, but it's clear he's serious, and it's not a request. He genuinely needs the milk. Without waiting for her consent, he uses his powers to make her obey. But after several minutes of trying to feed the baby, Clevites eventually comes to the conclusion that it's not working. Alicia points out the obvious: she's a virgin who's never had a child, so of course she can't produce milk. She also questions why someone like him would even bother trying to keep a baby alive in the first place. Clevites has no interest in justifying himself to Alicia, but since she can't produce milk, he'll have to find another use for her. The baby won't die, not as long as he sustains it with his energy, but its hunger will never be satisfied. Frustrated, he demands to know if Alicia has any other way to obtain milk. Alicia can't go against Clevites' order, so she informs him that the baby will need a wet nurse for feeding. However, that means traveling to a human town, something that would definitely spark fear given his current appearance. To avoid this, Clevites chooses to take on a human form. He adopts the same appearance as the child's mother and decides to go by the name Clen, naming the baby Luna. Clen then asks Alicia to show him the way to the nearest village, but before they set off, they stop so Alicia can clean Luna's blanket. As Alicia washes the blanket, she notices that it bears the royal crest of Haydn. Meanwhile, in the ruins of what once was Haydn, word of the devastation has already spread. A scout is dispatched to check on the aftermath and is stunned by the destruction caused by just one dark beast. This only reinforces his belief that attacking one of the beast lords was a reckless decision from the start. The timing couldn't have been more unfortunate, as the attack happened on the very day the crown princess was meant to escape the kingdom with her son. Outside the kingdom, a group of soldiers from the kingdom of Duns waits, ready to take advantage of the situation. They decide to invade Haydn and take control of the forge before any other nation can claim it. Back at the river, Alicia questions Clen, demanding to know if he was aware that Luna belonged to the royal family when he took the child. Clen, however, is completely confused and says he has no idea what she's referring to. Alicia then explains that the blanket Luna was wrapped in bore the royal emblem, something only the royal family is permitted to use. Thinking back, Clen recalls that he found Luna beneath the castle debris, which does line up with her being royalty. Still, this revelation doesn't affect his plan going forward. Alicia questions what he means by the rubble of the castle. Clen casually replies that he was the one who destroyed Haydn and killed the king the last night. Alicia is in shock, struggling to believe that Haydn is truly gone, but Clen reminds her that they were the ones who ambushed him first. To him, it's no major concern, but Alicia insists it's a huge deal. If Clen really did wipe out Haydn, and Luna is the only surviving royal, then countless people will soon be coming after him. Clen doesn't understand why. Alicia goes on to explain that only members of the Haydn royal family possess the ability to use the unique forging techniques behind the creation of Haydn weapons. But as soon as the words leave her mouth, she realizes she's said too much. Up until now, Clen hadn't really considered what he planned to do with Luna. But if the child is truly that significant, then Clen figures he wouldn't mind turning him into the new king of the humans. That way, he could manipulate everything from the shadows, and if the humans ever crossed the line again, he'd have the perfect position to crush them completely. For now, they still need to find some milk for Luna, so Clen tells Alicia to hurry up. Alicia still doesn't understand why Clen is so fixated on the child, but one thing is clear: if anything were to happen to Luna, Clen would likely wipe out every human on the continent. With that in mind, Alicia knows she has to protect him no matter what. But just as Clen becomes distracted, a bandit sneaks up from behind, and before Clen can react, she's struck and knocked unconscious. Several hours later, Alicia regains consciousness and realizes she's shackled inside a moving carriage. Clen, relieved that she's awake, casually explains that they were captured earlier. However, he's not too concerned about it at the moment because Luna is currently asleep. Alicia, however, is deeply worried, mainly because she can't figure out how the bandits managed to overpower Clen so easily. She asks if he becomes as weak as an ordinary human in this form, but Clen explains that's not the case. He still possesses all his powers. It's just that this is his first time taking on a human form, and he hadn't realized how delicate the human skull actually is. Clen assures her that now that he understands his body's limitations, no one will catch him off guard again. Alicia is relieved, but if he's already regained his full strength, she wonders why why he hasn't freed them yet. Clen explains that he's currently playing the role of an ordinary human. Until he successfully crowns Luna as king, he prefers to keep his true nature hidden. Moreover, one of his motivations for this entire ordeal is to study human behavior, and he's particularly curious to witness humanity's darker side firsthand. With that in mind, he's still confused about the situation, so he turns to Alicia for an explanation. Alicia explains to Clen that they were ambushed by bandits, the scum of society. Judging by the current circumstances, it seems the bandits plan to sell all the captives to a slave merchant. Clen wants to know how powerful these bandits actually are. Alicia replies that in terms of human strength, they're not particularly strong. However, they won't hesitate to use underhanded tactics, which makes them difficult to handle. She reassures Clen that most humans aren't as sinister as these bandits, so he shouldn't judge all of humanity based on their actions. After reaching the bandit camp, the prisoners are ordered out of the carriage. One man, unwilling to be sold into slavery, attempts an escape, but with his wrists bound and legs slowed by chains, he doesn't get far. The bandits catch sight of the man attempting to flee. One of them quickly pulls out a knife and hurls it into the man's back, killing him in the spot. The bold bandit then warns that anyone who dares to escape or defy them will suffer the same fate. Fear grips the rest of the slaves so tightly that none of them have the courage to resist. Clen is fascinated by the unfolding situation. Just as he and Alicia are about to move on, a bandit approaches and orders Alicia to go with him. Clen allows her to be taken, curious to see how events will unfold. Suddenly, a woman shouts at him for not working. Since Clen is now considered a slave, he decides to comply and walks over to her. However, the moment she notices he's carrying a baby, she begins calling for someone named Nell. Nell is the overworked and somewhat clumsy slave at the tavern, stuck doing all the toughest chores. When Carm shouts for her, she stumbles and falls. Carm scolds her for dropping the sheets everywhere, and Nell quickly apologizes. Despite the mishap, Carm orders Nell to take care of the baby. The moment Nell lays eyes on Luna, her face brightens. She absolutely adores babies. At the same time, Alicia is taken to the office of the bandits' leader, Vroko. However, Vroko immediately scolds his subordinates for not addressing him as boss, while the other bandits assume he's just messing around. Vroko insists he means it. If they won't recognize him as their leader, he'll have no choice but to unleash his pet, Betty. Alicia is stunned to learn that Vroko has gotten his hands on a troll, a fearsome dark beast from the west. What shocks her even more is that he's managed to tame it into a loyal companion. Just then, Vroko takes out the bag of crystals that Alicia had on her when she was captured. He points out that these crystals are only found in Luna Mountain, a region controlled by Clevites, one of the four lords of dark beasts. That means there's no way a regular person could have obtained them or even gotten anywhere near the place. He is aware that the kingdom of Haydn recently dispatched a team of heroes to fight Clevites, but according to reports, they were all defeated. Vroko also recalls that among them was a woman resembling Alicia. He notes how Clevites ravaged Haydn following the hero's failure, causing immense tragedy for its people. However, for the Ravens bandit group, this turn of events was the most favorable outcome they could have wished for. Vroko draws a red sword, leaving Alicia shocked. She can't believe someone like him wields a monahydrite sword. He brags about how these swords, forged from that rare metal, grant immense power to their users. However, he admits he's never experienced that surge of strength himself, because the one he holds is a fake. Only members of the royal family can craft true magic swords. Vroko explains to Alicia that their bandit group deals in two main trades, slaves and counterfeit magic swords, as most people can't distinguish the fakes from the real ones. He mentions the rumors claiming the entire royal family was wiped out by Clevites. If that's the case, he adds, the value of genuine magic swords will shoot up incredibly fast. He claimed that the 13 regalia, personally crafted by the king before his death, would be worth a fortune, although they were believed to have been lost during the battle with Clevites. Vroko is confident that, with Alicia now under his control, he can track them down and sell them for massive profit. He orders the two to make her guide them to the regalia in the morning after that. They can do whatever they please with her. While this is happening, Clen is working as a tavern servant. Nell is occupied with feeding Luna, so he's staying out of trouble, until a bandit storms over, shouting at Nell to fetch him more beer. She sets Luna down and obeys, but despite her compliance, the bandit still lashes out, kicking her in the back. Next, another bandit shouts at Clen to bring him some meat. Clen complies without hesitation, serving the meat without a word of protest. The bandits are taken aback by how obedient he is, convinced he'll make an excellent slave. However, Carm remains uneasy. There's something about him that feels off. The horn on on his head led her to believe he might have Orgite blood, but his skin is far too pale for that, and his emotionless eyes don't match that of a normal boy. Meanwhile, Nell is quietly carrying the beer when one of the bandits deliberately trips her. She stumbles, splashing all the beer on the floor. The bandits immediately blame her, using it as an excuse to drag her outside for punishment. They take cruel pleasure in her suffering, and after mercilessly beating her, they simply walk away as if nothing happened, returning to their usual routine. Just then, Clen's shadows consume the bandits' bodies, leaving no trace behind. He then seeks out Nell and requests her help. Luna is hungry and needs milk. Confused, Nell agrees to feed the child. As Luna feeds, Clen takes the opportunity to question Nell. He wants to learn her identity and the reason she's allied with the bandits. Nell begins to share her story. She was born in a slave camp and never knew her father, but she remembers her mother vividly. Life was never easy for them, and from what Nell recalls, the bandits constantly abused her mother. Despite everything, her mother endured all the suffering just to protect Nell. But when Nell was around 12 years old, her mother suddenly vanished. Nell doesn't know if she died or somehow managed to escape. However, after her mother disappeared, the bandits shifted their cruelty toward Nell, tormenting her for amusement. Because of their abuse, she lost most of her teeth and can only hear from one ear. Her situation improved slightly when Carm took her under her protection. After that, the bandits no longer subjected her to their twisted games. Now, she even has a purpose, producing enough milk to feed starving infants. Clen finds Nell's story interesting, but based on what Alicia told him, a woman can only produce milk if she's had a child. So, he asks Nell where her baby is. Nell's face darkens as she quietly explains that she doesn't have one, her baby was stillborn. When Carm first told her the news, Nell sank into despair and, at the time, genuinely wished she would die. But the next morning, when she woke up, she found a random baby nursing from her. Realizing the child would starve without help, she let him drink as much as he needed. After that, more babies were brought to her to be fed, and that's how she ended up becoming the village wet nurse. So even though her life has been far from easy, she's determined to do her best to ensure the babies who depend on her milk are cared for and happy. Clen has heard all he needs, so he thanks Nell for sharing her story and invites her to join him. He wants her to be Luna's wet nurse. Even though he's usually wary of humans, he senses Nell's kindness and trusts her. Nell appreciates the offer and says it means a lot to her, but she doesn't believe Clen can actually leave this place after all. He's a slave just like she is, so she gently declines his offer. At the same time, some of the bandits are guiding Alicia across a bridge. When she notices they're taking her toward a flooded mine shaft, a sense of dread washes over her. Deep within the mine, she spots a man approaching the dock, holding a hook. The bandits burst into laughter, fully aware of what's coming next. Even though it's obvious a trap, the man decides to proceed anyway. The bandits swore they'd free him and his wife if he retrieves the treasure from the lake's depths. As he dives in and starts swimming downward, Alicia shouts at him to get out, warning him that the mine is said to be infested with monsters. Seconds later, the monsters leap out of the water with the man clutched in their jaws and tear him apart right in front of his wife. Alicia is horrified by the gruesome scene she's just seen, but the bandits are having fun, clearly entertained by the man's brutal death. These water-dwelling creatures are known as Arvensis, and they first appeared during the Great Flood 300 years ago. Now, they're trapped within the flooded depths of these mines. Even Cordwar, the greatest hero of his era, couldn't stand a chance against them, and that was back when there was still firm ground to battle on. Now that the entire mine is submerged, defeating the Arvensis is nearly impossible. The magical sword once wielded by the hero was known as Stream Splitter. Alicia figures that's the treasure the bandits ordered that man to go and fetch, but despite offering him freedom in return for risking his life, they never truly planned to let him live, even if he managed to return alive. She curses them as scums, but the bandits remind her that her wrists are tied, heavy steel weights on her legs, and stranded on a bridge high in the air. She's in no place to insult them. Worse yet, more bandits are eagerly waiting for their turn to torture her through the night, especially Fido, who is eager to hear her scream. Faced with limited options, Alicia had hoped to avoid using Clevetess's curse, but now she sees no alternative. Quickly, she dislocates her shoulder, twists her arms overhead, and slams Fido's head between the shackles, forcing him to cut the bridge's rope with his knife. The impact causes them both to fall into the mine floor below, and the moment they hit the ground, they both die. When the bandits see Alicia's corpse below, they begin to panic. They needed her alive to guide them to the 13 lost regalia. Meanwhile, deep in the cave, Alicia awakens, kept alive only by the immortality curse Clevitis placed upon her. Though the curse prevents her from dying, it doesn't heal her wounds. Now, broken and bleeding, she lies completely paralyzed, helpless. Every bone in her body is shattered, and with so much blood lost, escape is impossible on her own. Worse yet, if the bandits discover she's still alive, she'll be in even greater danger. She starts to struggle, trying to move, until the blood leaking from her body floats into the air, and suddenly, Clevitis materializes before her. Alicia is stunned to see him in such a small form, but he explains that it's because he's using the blood magic within her to manifest himself. That same magical blood is what's keeping her immortal body alive. If she loses all of it, she'll die for good. However, Clevitis assures her that as long as she remains valuable to him, he'll replenish all the blood in her body. Once that happens, she should eventually recover from her injuries. Alicia is relieved to hear that, but she quickly realizes that Clevitis still hasn't begun healing her. Curious, she asks what's holding him back. Clevitis replies that he will get to it, but first, he has something to ask her. He explains that he recently found someone ideal to serve as Luna's wet nurse. Despite being a demon, he could clearly see that Nell was being treated poorly here, so he gave her an opportunity to leave and start a better life caring for Luna. However, Nell outright refused. Clevitis asks Alicia if she has any clue why Nell would reject such a good offer. From Alicia's perspective, it's likely because Nell sees him as a slave who couldn't possibly keep his word. Groups like these bandits don't simply let people walk away, and those who do manage to flee usually end up being hunted down. Having grown up in this kind of environment, Nell probably believes that true freedom is completely out of reach for her. Clevitis asks if there's any way to fix the situation, and Alicia believes the simplest solution would be to eliminate all the bandits in the camp. If no one's left to chase after Nell, she'd be far more likely to accept Clevitis's offer. Alicia adds that, given how powerful he is, it should be no problem for him to wipe out the entire group on his own. But Clevitis refuses, saying he can't take that risk. If word got out that he left the mountain, others might see it as a chance to invade his territory while he's away. Instead, he wants Alicia to handle it, pointing out that it would be completely natural for a hero like her to wipe out a bandit group. Alicia starts to object, but Clevitis interrupts and tells her to just get it done, then immediately fills her with blood to heal her body. The bandits eventually descend to the mine's depths in search of Alicia's corpse. However, when they find her, they're terrified to see her body twisted in unnatural, grotesque ways, as every snapped bone realigns and her flesh knits itself back together. She's racked with unbearable pain. Yet, when the transformation is complete, she is fully healed. The bandits can't comprehend how she survived such a deadly fall, but their focus remains on forcing her to lead them to the 13 regalia. They know she's a hero, so they stay wary, yet they believe overwhelming her will be enough. But one impatient bandit rushes ahead, attacking Alicia with a stab to the shoulder. Alicia takes his arm, drives her fist into his face, then snatches his sword and eye patch. She hates being pushed into violence, but these bandits are beyond redemption, leaving her no choice but to end them. With Alicia handling the bandits, Clen's only task now is to find Nell and make her believe that escaping this place is actually possible. Meanwhile, Nell makes her way back to the tavern, where Carm has been anxiously waiting for her. She's been worried sick. She can't stand seeing Nell constantly mistreated and beaten, but when it comes to the bandits, there's nothing she can do to stop them. Nell is really grateful for Carm's kindness, but there's still plenty to do. Carm asks her to begin by cleaning up the dishes. She then observes that Nell seems unusually cheerful despite her injuries, so she asks if something happened. Nell hesitates to call it something good, but she confesses it did brighten her spirits. Nell questions Carm about the outside world, which surprises Carm since Nell has never shown curiosity like that before. Carm wonders why she's asking, so Nell clarifies that, unlike Carm, who was taken to the camp, she was born there and has never seen the outside. She assumes Carm must have some knowledge of it. Carm admits she's aware of the outside world, but she doesn't have many fond memories of it. Like most of the women brought here, she either lost her home or never had one, so it's not something they discuss much. She then asks Nell why she's suddenly so interested in the outside. Nell responds by saying that someone asked her if she wanted to leave. Carm slaps Nell hard for daring to say something like that, especially with bandits still all over the place. The bandits see them as nothing more than disposable slaves, only useful until they're not. That's why all the women have had to stick together and protect each other. If Nell wants to survive here, she can't go around saying things like that. Right then, then, Vroko walks in, having overheard everything. Karm gets really anxious, unsure of what he might do. She asks him why he's there, since he almost never visits the tavern, but Vroko simply says he heard about a baby and wanted to see for himself. Karm then turns to Nell and asks her to tell Vroko where the baby is. Nell says that the last time she saw Luna, she was in the stables. Vroko says he'll go check for himself, but before heading out, he tells Nell to come with him. The tone in his voice makes it instantly clear to Karm that this isn't a good sign. She tries to intervene, but she has no power in this place, so there's really nothing she can do. Meanwhile, Nell has no idea what's coming her way. After Vroko takes Nell away, Karm slams her hands on the table in frustration, furious because Nell was the only one around who could care for the babies, but Vroko clearly doesn't care about any of that. Karm tries to convince herself there was nothing she could have done, that Nell brought this on herself by mentioning leaving in front of Vroko, but deep down, she still feels awful about what's going to happen to her. Right then, Klen appears with Luna in his arms, catching Karm off guard since she hadn't heard him enter. She quickly assumes he's simply there to feed Luna. With a heavy heart, she informs him that Nell is gone and likely won't return. Karm isn't happy about it, but sadly, that's just how things work around here. Klen doesn't understand what Karm means by that, so he demands an explanation, and one look at Klen's eyes tells Karm that he's very serious about making sure Nell is alright. Meanwhile, Vroko leads Nell down an old stairwell, and Nell is amazed because even though she has lived her whole life in this camp, she has never seen this place before. Vroko explains that this area was once part of a massive magic ore mine, and that magic ores have countless uses. For instance, the lamp he's holding works by combining crushed magic ores with insect oil to create a flame. He goes on to say that before turning to a bandit, he spent a lot of time studying how magic ores could be used, especially how they react when mixed with different liquids to produce unique effects. Just then, Nell stumbled upon a skull on the floor, and she thinks this might not be good. Vroko turns out the lights and Nell begins to panic because this place is pitch black, so she can't see anything in here. She pleads with Vroko to turn the lights back on and Vroko obliges, but once Nell can see again, she's horrified to find Vroko's pet monster standing behind her. A key part of Vroko's research involved creating special mixtures to control demons like his pet Betty. This ability is what helped him take over as the bandit camp's leader, but as the leader, he can't afford to show mercy to someone like Nell after she openly talked about escaping. That's why he's decided to have Betty execute her. Once Nell fully grasps what's happening, she starts to panic. In a desperate attempt to flee, she takes off running, but Vroko quickly commands Betty to eat her. Betty immediately chases her. As Nell stumbles forward, struggling to get away, her mind flashes back to Klen's offer, and she deeply regrets not accepting it, wondering if things could have been different. Just then, she spots Klen holding Luna at the other end of the tunnel, and the last thought that goes through her mind is how sorry she feels for not being able to take care of Luna anymore. In that instant, Klen gets eaten by Betty and is swallowed whole, so she's gone. Luna bursts into tears at the horrifying scene, but Klen calmly tells her that this is simply how the world works. Monsters need to eat, and he can't fault it for following its nature. If anyone is to blame, it's him, for not getting there in time to save Nell. He's frustrated over losing someone as valuable as her, but at this point, there's nothing he can do. Klen then shifts his focus to Vroko, puzzled by the fact that a proud troll from the western forest would ever bow to someone like him. Vroko, on the other hand, thinks Klen must be out of his mind to be throwing insults at a time like this. He has no clue how Klen even managed to show up, but in the end, he figures it doesn't really matter. He orders Betty to eat Klen too, but to his surprise, she doesn't budge. Confused, he glances up at her to figure out why, and is stunned to see that Betty looks completely terrified. He's never seen her this scared before, and strangely enough, she won't even get close to Klen. She was utterly terrified, so much so that she reflexively vomits Nell up. However, Nell is drenched in stomach acid and has lost an arm and a leg, leaving her in terrible shape. Though she's badly mutilated, she's still alive, so Klen uses his abilities to counteract the acid. Then, he gently places Luna beside Nell so she can offer comfort in Nell's last moments. Klen then uses one of his shadows to carry Luna and Nell away while Vroko isn't looking, and by the time he turns back to face Klen, Vroko is shocked to see that the other two are gone. He thinks Klen must have done it by using some sort of magic, but Klen has no idea what magic even is. Vroko believes Klen is only pretending not to understand, since magic is the only possible explanation for everything he's done. In simple terms, magic involves using magic stones and certain ingredients to produce supernatural effects. For instance, the drug hidden in Vroko's coat was crafted from arcanasite, certain herbs, and the larvae of a parasitic fly. In short, it reduces anyone but him to complete idiocy. After using the substance on Betty, she became totally obedient to him. Vroko pours the drug into his fire, releasing a cloud of steam the moment Betty inhales it. She snaps, losing all sense of control and charging at Clem in a furious frenzy. Clem's body is tossed around like nothing, unable to fight back properly since he can't access much of his power in human form. As Clem is sent flying through the air, all he can think about is how furious he is that Alicia never said a word to him about magic. Meanwhile, Alicia is still in the middle of battling the bandits, having already taken down a dozen of them. But there are still plenty left, and the sword she snatched from one of the bandits has already snapped. If she plans to slaughter every last one of them, she'll need a stronger weapon. With that in mind, she bolts straight out of the cave. There are still about 50 bandits remaining, and even with her immortal body, exhaustion is still a threat. If she burns out before finishing them off, she's done for. Alicia finally reaches the water, only to find the monsters lurking at the surface, ready to devour her if she dives in. So instead, she climbs to the top of the scaffold, planning to lure the bandits after her. Once enough of them have followed her up, she cuts the support ropes, sending most of them crashing down into the water below. With so many bodies in the water, the monsters go wild, tearing through the bandits one by one in a bloody feast. Meanwhile, Alicia manages to slip past unnoticed by hiding inside a barrel. Since she doesn't have to worry about drowning, she just lets herself sink to the lake's depths, right where the legendary sword awaits. Still, as the barrel sinks deeper into the lake, holding her breath until reaching the bottom proves far more difficult than she anticipated. Alicia quickly begins to feel the intense pain and pressure she had mentally prepared for before diving in. The crushing force dulls her senses, and the lack of oxygen makes her entire body throb with discomfort. Although she knows she won't die, even if she suffocates, it takes tremendous willpower to resist her body's instinct to swim back to the surface. After several minutes, she finally reaches the bottom and tumbles out of the barrel. From afar, Alicia catches sight of the red glow of the magic sword and instinctively swims toward it. Even though her body feels unbearably heavy and difficult to move, she's fully aware that claiming the sword will grant her immense power, enough to make returning to the surface effortless. But just as she's about to take hold of the sword, a massive red eye opens before her. It's only then that Alicia understands. She's not standing at the bottom, but on the back of an enormous creature that has become aware of her presence. The colossal beast begins to rise, unleashing a powerful current that hurls her backward. In that moment, Alicia realizes this monster is the very reason the legendary hero was defeated in this place. Still, Alicia quickly refocuses on the sword and makes another attempt to seize it. But before she can fully reach it, the massive creature opens its mouth wide, drawing her in with a powerful suction. She's unable to fight the current, but at the last second, she manages to grasp the sword. Just as the beast devours her, her arm ends up wedged between the creature's jaws. But then she remembers her father's words. He once told her that she had more potential than anyone to awaken the power of the legendary sword, and that made her a truly remarkable hero. Drawing upon every ounce of her strength, Alicia shatters the monster's jaw. Once free, she locks eyes with the beast, channeling the full power of the enchanted sword. She then quickly swings the sword. According to Alicia, the sword has the abilities to split through the water like butter. If you swing it horizontally, it will be propelled you forward almost like moving fish, making it the ideal weapon for underwater combat. Alicia is being pursued by a colossal monster, and she can hardly believe such a massive creature exists. She suspects it must be one of the ancient dark beasts, legendary creatures that have lived for millennia. These beings typically slumber for centuries in the most remote regions of the continent. However, this one was awakened from its long rest when humans attempted to mine arcanasite. As these thoughts race through her mind, Alicia nears the surface, but the Arvensis spot her too. She knows that without air, she won't stand a chance in the fight ahead. However, the Arvensis are already positioned above, waiting. With a powerful swing of her sword, she launches herself upward, slicing through one of the monsters and bursting out of the water. The bandits recognize the legendary sword in her hand, yet they still prepare to attack, determined to claim the regalia at any cost. But before they can act, the massive beast erupts from the lake, its tentacles thrashing and devouring every bandit in its path. Using the sword's power, Alicia slices through the creature's tentacles, tentacles. But she knows she's no match for the beast on her own. Realizing this, she chooses to let the monster deal with the bandits and turns to walk away. However, before she can leave, the bandits call out to her in desperation, pleading for their lives and promising to obey her every command if she saves them. But Alicia knows all too well that these scumbags would betray her or anyone else the moment they got the chance, so she ignores their pleas and continues on her way, leaving the massive creature to finish the job. As a hero, Alicia does feel uneasy about leaving such a catastrophic beast alive, but she reassures herself that, being a water type, it likely won't venture beyond the lake. Besides, she's completed her mission, wiping out the entire bandit group just as Clevitus instructed. As far as she's concerned, her work here is done. Suddenly, Alicia hears Clen's voice and looks around to find him, but he quickly explains they're communicating through telepathy. He admits he can't see everything clearly, but judging by the amount of blood scattered around, he's confident she completed the mission. Alicia immediately starts shouting at him, furious that he didn't step in to help when it was obvious how much she was struggling. Clen apologizes, explaining that he was occupied with his own problems, which shocks Alicia. She never imagined the mighty dark beast lord could struggle with anything, but Clen admits he's facing an unfamiliar technique and that his human form is far more fragile than he expected. Clen accuses her of concealing the truth about magic from him and warns that once she returns, she'll face his punishment. Still, he reassures Alicia that he's already taken down Vroko's pet. At the same time, Vroko flees in terror, stunned that Clen, a seemingly incredible mage, obliterated his troll with a single strike. Suddenly, he comes across Nell's lifeless body, with Luna sitting beside it. The sight of the child sparks an idea. Perhaps there's still a way to turn things around, even now. Meanwhile, Alicia rushes over to Clen after receiving his orders and immediately senses something off about the strange smoke lingering in the air. Clen notices the sword she's carrying, but when he asks for it, Alicia refuses, saying she went through too much to obtain it. Clen doesn't press further and explains that the smoke interferes with a dark beast's senses, which is why he's struggling to locate Luna. Clen considers reverting to his true form to disperse the smoke, but he's worried doing so might cause the cave to collapse. Instead, he turns to Alicia and tells her to take care of the situation, reasoning that she understands how magic works. Alicia responds that not just anyone can use magic. It requires drawing out the hidden power within Arcanasite, something only certain individuals are capable of. Alicia admits that despite knowing a little magic, she can't actually use it, and Clen is genuinely shocked by how incompetent she is as a hero. Alicia accuses him of slaughtering the other heroes, insisting that some of them were skilled in magic, but Clen pays no attention and begins walking away. Alicia then questions what he'll do if Vroko has already killed Luna. Clen responds that if that happens, he'll lose all interest in the human world, implying he'd wipe out humanity. Determined to prevent this, Alicia resolves to locate Luna quickly to save mankind. As they walk through the cave together, Alicia and Clen spot a trail of blood. She asks if Nell was bleeding, and he confirms. Alicia suggests that either Nell is crawling away or someone is dragging her, but in either case, she couldn't have gone far. They need to hurry. Meanwhile, Nell is still alive and clinging to Vroko's cloak to prevent him from escaping with Luna. Frustrated by Nell's unwavering determination to protect Luna, Vroko demands to know how far she's willing to go and insists that the boy is the only one he wants. Earlier, Vroko discovered Luna and Nell lying on the ground. When he tried to get closer, Luna shoved his hand away. The moment Luna began to cry, the lamp he was holding suddenly exploded. It was then that Vroko realized Luna was a pure-blooded Hydnian, proof that he belonged to the royal family and possessed magical abilities. Understanding that Luna could be valuable, he decides to take him, but Nell stubbornly clings to his clothes. Frustrated, he threatens to cut off Nell's wrists and abandon her. At that moment, Alicia arrives and intervenes, shocked to see her alive. Vroko demands to know what happened to the bandits he sent to kill her. Alicia coldly replies that they ended up as food for dark beasts. Just then, Clen steps in and warns Vroko about the punishment awaiting him. Realizing Luna is his only way out, Vroko presses his sword against Luna's hands, threatening to cut off his fingers if they come closer. Clen remains indifferent, confident that he can regenerate Luna's fingers, but Alicia stops him, arguing that even if the fingers grow back, Luna would suffer unbearable pain, something she refuses to allow. Alicia tells Vroko she's willing to negotiate, revealing that she has the regalia he's after. Vroko is stunned when he sees the weapon. Alicia then hurls the sword at the wall and gives him a choice: let go of Luna and use both hands to retrieve the sword, or keep hold of Luna and walk away without it. However, Vroko simply chuckles, convinced that no hero hero would ever choose a mere child over a powerful magical weapon. Now fully certain that Luna carries royal blood, he begins to rethink his approach. He then declares that he'll only release Luna if they give him the location of the remaining 13 regalia. Alicia hesitates to reveal the location, but Clem dismisses her concerns, insisting he has no interest in the swords and she should just disclose it. Reluctantly, Alicia explains that the 13 regalia swords lie at the bottom of the canyon in Luna Mountain, the very place where Clevites slaughtered the heroes, a place even Vroko can't reach, despite his power. Vroko isn't satisfied with the information about the regalia's location, so he decides to take Luna with him regardless. He pulls out a magic invisibility powder, sprinkles it over himself, and says that he'll claim the swords for himself. Then, he lightly hit Luna in the forehead, causing him to cry, and vanishes from sight. Confident that Alicia and Clem can no longer see him, he begins to walk away. But suddenly, Alicia appears right in front of him and slashes him in half. Vroko is stunned, unable to comprehend how she managed to find him. She explains that even though he turned invisible and muted his own presence, she could still hear Luna's cries. Clem retrieves Luna and gently wipes the powder off his body as he gets ready to leave. Alicia then asks what he plans to do with Nell, but Clem says he has no intention of doing anything. Her body is too damaged. While Clem could still heal her, it would require a great deal of effort, and he doesn't believe Nell is worth the trouble. Alicia believes Nell was the one who protected Luna until the very end, and it's thanks to her that they arrived in time before Vroko could escape. Clem reminds her that his magic blood can only be used on one person at a time. If he uses it to save Nell, it could mean Alicia will die. But Alicia doesn't care if she dies again, as long as Clem saves Nell. As a hero, her purpose is to save others. Alicia remembers her father saying something similar when she was younger. Clem draws her blood and infuses it into Nell's body. Shortly after, Nell awakens, stunned to be alive. She asks Clem if he saved her, but he denies it, explaining that Alicia was the one who chose to help. If Nell wants to express gratitude, she should thank Alicia instead. Clem remarks that, despite Alicia's strength, she is still human. However, now that he has returned her mana, she should regain consciousness soon. Moments later, Alicia opens her eyes and instinctively grabs her sword, relieved to find it still by her side. Clem then informs Nell that she has been reborn with a new name, Nelleru. He entrusts Luna to her care, saying she will now accompany them, and this time, Nell eagerly agrees to his offer. The following morning, Clem and Alicia find themselves in a localized town, where he then picks Alicia's sword up and says he's confiscating it because it stands out a little too much. Clem doesn't want to draw any unnecessary attention to them, so he drops it and it sinks into the ground while Alicia whines about it. He tells her to be glad that he isn't throwing it away after all. Nelu returns with a huge load on her back and informs them both that she got everything they're going to be needing for their journey. She even managed to find some really cute clothes for baby Luna. Alicia tells her she did a good job, but what she finds more concerning is the fact that Nelu is carrying all that heavy stuff at once with ease. Nelu tells her that it's fine and her body feels really light, even while she's carrying the supplies. Alicia hears this and is left speechless. She recalls that Nelu lost a large amount of her body, so she's left to wonder whether Clem ended up giving her the body parts of a bodybuilder bandit. Alicia was dead at the time, so she didn't see how Clem fixed up Nelu's body. At this point, Nelu is in such a good mood that she even offers to carry Alicia's sword and armor. It's so cute that she's just trying her best to be useful. However, Alicia tells her that she unfortunately doesn't even have a sword or any armor anymore. Nelu tells her that's not a big deal because she recalls Vroko once telling her that he keeps all his good swords in his desk. Alicia hears that and immediately gets excited. She knows the exact desk Nelu is referring to. She then turns to ask Clem whether she can keep the sword. Clem realizes that she's basically useless to him without a sword anyway, so he lets her have it. And after that, Alicia happily dashes into the woodhouse in search of the sword. While she searches for the sword, Clem and Nelu go for a walk around the area. Ever since the slaves fled, the entire vicinity has been empty, so Clem asks her whether she's going to miss this place. Turns out that Nelu doesn't really have any good memories of this place at all, even though this is where she lived most of her childhood. Still, seeing the place empty makes her feel kind of sad. If only she could have said goodbye to Carm while she had the chance. Just then, this touching moment is interrupted as a short-haired guy swoops in from above and gets ready to deliver a heavy attack on them. Meanwhile, Alicia is raiding Vroko's office searching for the sword. She really hopes no one came to steal it in the midst of all this chaos. Her day only gets better as she finds a pouch full of money. She immediately puts it in her pocket, but things take a weird turn concern as she finds a woman's leather armor in his drawer. This makes Alicia shudder in disgust as she wonders whether the old man was just a pervert or whether he just used to put it on for roleplay with his wife. She really hopes that isn't the case, so she puts it on, deciding to take it. Even though she can't die, she can still get hurt, and the armor would help prevent that. She continues to look through his drawer until she finds the sword. She draws it and is instantly impressed at how light and balanced it is. But her moment of joy is cut short as Clem comes flying through the wall. After he sits up, he complains about his tiny body because of how light and fragile it is. The short-haired guy drops from the roof and is surprised to see that Clem has others with him. Alicia takes one look at him and can tell he's really strong. He walks up to her and attempts a swift forehand kick, but Alicia dodges it just in time. The guy leaps back and commends her for being fast enough to dodge his kick. He then jumps into the air and hits Alicia with several mid-air strikes, with each attack being more powerful than the last. However, Alicia is still able to use her new sword to block every single attack. The guy then leaps back and uses his wind magic to send Alicia flying. Nelu and Alicia gasp as they see her erupting out of the cabin. Alicia hits the floor hard but manages to quickly get back up. It's clear that she's struggling to keep up, so the guy tells her that he's not here for her. He's just here for Luna, so he'll be willing to let her walk away from this if she wants. But from the look of things, Alicia doesn't show any signs of backing down. She needs to calculate her next attack carefully. If this doesn't work, she'll have to resort to her stream splitter technique. Her eyes go plain white as she draws her sword. She then charges towards him and unleashes her hidden rising dragon techniques. But right before she can slash his throat, Clem stops her by manipulating her blood. He punches her in the face and tells her to cut it out, after which he explains that this guy over here likely attacked them due to a misunderstanding. He then draws her attention to his knee. If he hadn't stopped Alicia at the moment he did, that kick alone would have ripped her body apart. That said, the guy openly explains that he attacked them because he noticed that Nelu has the scent of a western troll, but she immediately replies, telling him that's probably because she was swallowed by the monster. That aside, the guy was also told that there was a small man among them who was able to control the monster. Back in the cave when he faced the monster's corpse, its arms and legs were torn off. Clem is clearly the little guy among them, so the guy assumes he's the one that controlled and killed the troll monster. Clem hears his deductions but doesn't give a clear answer yet. Instead, he first tells Nelu to take Luna and wait at the entrance of the village. After she's gone, Clem explains to Alicia that this guy over here is a fellow dark beast. He's taken a human form, but it's clear that he's hiding something else. Alicia hears that and is really surprised, but what surprises her even more is the guy is under the effect of a powerful illusion, which prevents even Clem from seeing his true form. Turns out that there's only one being that can use such powerful illusions, the Zaphthier of Phantasms. Our guy over there is shocked as to how Clem knows all of this. He asks who he is. Clem introduces himself by saying he's a lord of dark beasts taking on a human form just like he is. The guy realizes that they have the same goals in mind, so he decides to reveal his true form. Then he turns into a giant falcon with glowing white eyes. His name is Gart, and he's a servant of Lord Zaphthier, the lord of dark beasts of the west. Now that Gart has given his backstory, he asks Clem to show proof of being a dark beast too, but Clem doesn't want to go through the trouble of transforming his entire body, so he just shows him his tail. That should be enough to convince him. After Gart takes his human form back, Alicia noticeably seems to be frozen in fear, as she realizes that there are two dark beasts that casually look and talk like humans. This makes her wonder whether there are any others apart from Clevitas. Was there even a point to all the battles the heroes fought? Clem reads Alicia's mind and tells her to calm down because there aren't that many dark beasts who can take on human form and use human speech. Moreover, the dark beasts usually don't like getting themselves involved with the humans, so they have nothing to worry about. The dark beasts heavily look down on the humans. They even find it kind of embarrassing to speak with them. That fact is why Gart needs an explanation for why Clem is with a hero like Alicia. Heroes are the dark beasts' sworn enemies after all. Clem explains Alicia is a hero, but right now she's his servant. She even has a spell on her that makes her obey no matter what happens. Clem plans on using her as a guide in his attempt to learn the ways of the humans. Nothing more and nothing less. Gart hears this and considers it a rather reasonable explanation, so he accepts it. But then he looks at Clem with a serious gaze in his eyes while he warns him not to get in his way or else he'll kill his servants. Clem tells him he can try if he wants to, but there's no way he's letting that happen. That aside, it's now time for Clem to ask his questions. He previously heard Gart say something about about his master thinking about wiping out the entire human race. Clem believes it's quite unlike Zafthir, especially since he knows Zafthir is the kind of person who enjoys observing humans for the fun of it. Gart understands her suspicion, so he explains it all started 3 days ago while he was flying through the Great Western Forest. He spotted a pack of dark beasts, but what's odd is the fact one of the pack just randomly vanished. At the time, that was the 9th time a dark beast youngling had vanished for no reason. Most dark beast younglings can't speak, and it's quite common for them to be eaten, so it's very likely that far more of them than he counted have actually vanished. Gart isn't really sure why, but he has a feeling that the humans are behind this. Lord Zafthir came to the same conclusion. That's why he sent Gart into the human world to investigate, and if necessary, they would need to wipe out the entire human race. Clen hears this and is quite surprised that Zafthir came to that conclusion before his master did. However, Clen equally suspects that the humans may be taking a lot more than dark beasts from them. He once had a very weird interaction with Karm where he learned that women in that village weren't allowed to give birth, so whenever anyone did, there were these suspicious guys in robes who came into their village to buy the babies. They spoke about the babies having a talent assigned to them. The lady even once saw Master Vroko with them. Even he seemed afraid of their capabilities. In that village, it's against the law to give birth. Even if you do, your baby will just get sold off for chicken change anyway. So the ladies just try their best not to get pregnant to protect the little pride they have left. Clen considers the fact that there's someone out there buying human babies and someone also kidnapping dark beast younglings. It can't be a coincidence. The ones buying the human babies have to be connected to Vroko somehow. And at the same time, Vroko had a pet troll. Clen presumes the talent they spoke about signifies that there's magic deeply involved in this. Clen asks Alicia whether she has any idea what's going on, but it turns out magic isn't really her strong suit, so she doesn't know anything about it. But to her, it definitely sounds like something they'd do. The wizards, the ones who use magic as a tool for war. Wizards have shown up over the last few years. They entirely changed the ways battles were fought by the ways they use magic to their advantage, and the first person to bring it to the battlefield was General Drell, the Dragon Slayer, the same man who killed Alicia's father. General Drell went up against the army of East Highgate, which was led by a guy named Rod Royce. Rod just received a report that their advanced forces had just been wiped out. He would need at least 50,000 men to stand a chance against Drell's army, but he only had not more than 6,000 men left, meaning their entire force wouldn't even be able to slow them down. But Rod wasn't giving up. He had a plan. His theory was if they can get in from the west gate on the Esland side, then they would be able to seal the gate and fight even with the 6,000 men they have. However, carrying this plan out would require Haydn's cooperation. He already sent messengers about it, but they haven't gotten any response back. He assumes it's because the situation inside the fortress is very chaotic. There are rumors that Clevites destroyed the castle. If that's true, he assumes General Drell is after the royal family's forge. Without it, he won't be able to create any regalia. Mikkel is worried that if they manage to take the forge, they'll be able to produce as many regalia as they want. Rod explains that the Forge of Haydn is the oldest magical artifact, and if magic researchers manage to study it, they could uncover all its secrets, potentially leading to the destruction of every nation. Just then, one of the messengers rides in and informs Rod that the larger East Gate has unexpectedly been opened. At that gate, Drell meets up with Maynard, a freak with literal golden eyes. Maynard tells Drell that he's confirmed the death of the King of Haydn. The crown princess has been kept in a safe place. The only problem now is the king's 6-month-old son. That child is the only one who they're certain has royal blood. Rumors say he was taken by a boy with black hair and is now missing. There's no way they can tell if he's alive or dead, but oddly enough, the Ravens just informed him they found a Haydnian baby and his hair color matches that of the baby they're searching for. He believes it's something worth investigating. General Drell hears this and instructs Maynard to start the investigation and be sure to have brought the baby back by the time he arrives in Hydrat. The next morning, Clen and Nelu are seen together at the edge of a forest. Clen has just been served a strange black liquid and looks a bit suspicious, but Nelu tells him it's just coffee. She explains that making coffee isn't easy. It requires getting the beans from Slada, a region beyond the eastern seas. Nelu also mentions that she added plenty of sugar to his cup, hoping it would lift his spirits. Clen goes in for a sip but immediately burns his lips. The coffee is too hot. Frustrated, he realizes he can't drink hot things anywhere because because his human tongue is too thin. Luna also wants to take a sip, but Clem pulls the cup away, warning that he'll burn his tongue if he tries. Setting that aside, Nelu asks Clem where Gart went, saying she hasn't seen him around lately. Clem explains that he returned to his kingdom to report everything he's learned about magic and wizards. Clem reassures Nelu not to worry, Gart isn't suspicious of her anymore. A few moments later, the coffee cools down, so he takes a sip and is quite impressed by how good it tastes. Just then, Alicia walks in, informing them both that she had a talk with the merchants in town. It's just like she thought. Haydn has become a total train wreck. She opens up a map and tells them that the neighboring country of Bolate broke past the border and invaded. Haydn is doing their possible best to fight back, but with their king dead and capital destroyed, Alicia doesn't think there'll be a way to stop them. Eslin previously made an attempt to stop them at the border, but turns out that didn't work. Clem is confused as to why Eslin would want to stop them in the first place. Hearing that, Alicia explains that Eslin and Bolate have been at war for ages, but when it comes to magic, Eslin is the weaker side, and because of that, they don't want to lose Haydn's forge to them. However, even if Haydn still had the forge up till this point, they still lack the knowledge to use it now that their king is dead. Haydn never had any wizards because the king of Haydn banned the use of magic within his borders. Nelu offers Alicia some coffee. Alicia looks into the cup, surprised to see it's real coffee. From her reaction, Clem guesses she's never had coffee before and teases her about it. Alicia responds, saying it's not her fault. She grew up in a rural village. She takes a sip and finds it surprisingly good. She thanks Nelu, saying the coffee was unexpectedly delicious. Now it's Luna's turn to eat, so Nelu carries him to another spot so she won't disturb Alicia and Clem while they brainstorm. As Nelu walks away, Alicia comments that she's a wonderful girl and very considerate. Just seeing her makes Alicia feel happy. Clem notices Alicia staring at Nelu a bit too long, so he reminds her that they're both women, meaning no matter how much she tries, she won't be able to have a child with her. Alicia instantly blushes and defends herself, saying she didn't mean it like that. She gets a little emotional as she explains to Clem that, for the first time, she feels like she's doing something heroic, actually making someone smile. She yells at Clem, telling him not to ruin the moment for her. Then, pulling herself together, Alicia shifts back to business and asks Clem what they should do about the situation on the ground. Alicia reminds Clem that his plan is to make Luna the king, but warns that it's only a matter of time before the entire country is destroyed. Clem calmly replies that even if Haydn became Bolate, it wouldn't really change anything, so he asks why she's so worried. Alicia explains that if Bolate takes over, Luna won't be able to become king since he's from Haydn. Clem hears this and admits that it would definitely be a problem. Alicia continues, explaining that an even bigger risk is if Luna gets found and captured. Pure-blooded Haydn babies are extremely rare, and just by looking at Luna, it's clear he has royal blood. If Haydn falls to Bolate, Luna would lose his place in the world of men. The Haydn royal bloodline holds the secrets to refining arcanacite ore. It's obvious that Bolate will be trying to get their hands on it by all means, and Alicia is confident that there's only one person who could command a whole army to achieve that goal. That person is none other than Drell, the Dragon Slayer. Alicia says her father had been retired for years, living in hiding, but Drell went out of his way to find and kill him. She still remembers that traumatic moment like it was yesterday. Back then, she stood by her father's side as Drell drew his sword and delivered the final blow. Once it was done, Drell had no beef with Alicia, so he simply walked away, overwhelmed by emotion. Alicia was about to charge at Drell, but her father, using the last of his strength, grabbed her hand and warned her not to fight Drell. She'd only end up dead. His final words were that she would become a great hero someday. Then he collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Alicia could do nothing but cry and scream in grief. Back in the present, Alicia tells Clem that if he really wants Luna to live in a world of men, he'll have to drive off the Bolate army and protect Haydn. Clem hears this and says it's a real pain in the neck to have to protect something he'd already decided he would destroy someday. Since Clem is heading out, Alicia wants to go too, but he tells her to stay behind and protect Luna and Nelu. His main reason is that he doesn't want anyone to find out that he, a lord of dark beasts, is working with a human. He can't afford to risk his reputation, so if he's going, he needs a solid reason. Clem figures that if Drell and the other wizards are secretly kidnapping dark beast children, it would make perfect sense for him to confront them. And while he's at it, he also plans to test how strong the wizards really are. Clem knows that Alicia is eager to avenge her father's death, but he tells her to just chill out because she has no role to play here. After all, she promised her dad not to fight Drell under any circumstances. In fact, before her father died, he told her, "War goes goes against the path of the hero. But deep down, Alicia doesn't even see herself as worthy of being called a hero. She sees herself as nothing more than a walking corpse, kept alive by Clen's dark ichor, so she feels it would be reasonable for her to want revenge for her father. However, Clen replies by asking her a simple question: is it up to you to decide whether you're a hero or not? Clen doesn't believe that things such as carrying a sword around or even killing dark beasts instantly makes you a hero. That said, he asks Alicia why she decided to become a hero in the first place. Alicia explains that she became a hero because she wanted to make the world a bigger and better place. Clen hears that and tells Alicia that ever since she met Nelu, her world has already become bigger and better. Alicia hears that and stares at Clen in surprise. He never told Alicia to stop being a hero, but if she wants to give up after everything she's done, he honestly couldn't care less. With that, Clen turns and starts walking toward the forest to confront Drell and the wizards. But before he gets far, Alicia stands up and tells him to be careful out there. He looks at her and lights up his horn, saying he'll be just fine. Clen transforms and takes off, creating a powerful gust of wind that nearly sweeps Luna away, but Nelu catches him just in time. She asks Alicia where Clen went, and Alicia replies that he'll be back soon, whether they want him to or not. Meanwhile, things aren't looking so good for Haydn, as their second fortress has just been destroyed by Drell and his army. Rod observes from a distance and is shocked to see that the second fortress wall fell so easily. Mikkel asks him what their next course of action should be, but Rod doesn't say anything. He just starts to ride ahead with his horse. Mikkel follows behind and informs Rod that Drell's army has crossed the border without permission. At the speed they're moving, he's sure they'll reach Hydrat before reinforcements can arrive. But despite the odds, Rod says they still have to try to stop them. He draws their attention to a very wide and shallow river coming up ahead. His plan is to use that crossing to cut the enemy off. At the same time, Alicia and Nelu are walking through the deserted town when they spot one of the surviving bandits getting his butt kicked by the townspeople. Nelu instantly clings to Alicia because she still has some traumatic memories of her past encounters with them. The two of them decide to take a nearby alley to avoid drawing any attention. Just before Alicia and Nelu slip away, the surviving bandit spots Alicia and tells the men beating him that she's the one who unleashed the octopus on their fortress. But when they turn to look, no one's there, so they continue beating him. That same day, the townspeople ended up hanging 9 bandits. Because of that, rumors started to spread. Maybe the story about the giant octopus in the Elba shaft was actually true. And with Clevites attacking Haydn and the Bolate army on the move, things are looking bad. Still, no matter what happens, their top priority is to protect the town at all costs. They plan to arm anyone who can carry a weapon, from the oldest to the youngest. Meanwhile, in front of an inn, Alicia looks back and can tell that everyone in town is on edge, just as she expected. She then calls Nelu's attention and asks her to refer to her by name only and not as hero when they're in public. For now, she thinks it's best to keep her status hidden. After that, they enter a shady-looking inn, and as soon as they step inside, 2 men start questioning Alicia. That's when their mother walks in and tells them to shut up before they wake the baby with all the noise. The 2 dimwits are Phil and Pete. Their mom lashes out at them with some hot insults for treating a customer so poorly, but they point out that Alicia has an eye patch and a sword, which makes her look a bit suspicious. The woman introduces herself as Kari, the owner of the establishment. Just by looking at Luna, Kari can tell he's a pure-blooded Hydanian because of his light pink hair and pointy ears. She asks what they want. Alicia quickly replies that she and Nelu are guards serving an important person, and they're currently protecting the child. Kari hears their story and decides to believe it, assuming the important person they mentioned is someone who fled from Hydrat or something along those lines. Kari honestly doesn't care what their goal is, she just wants them to spend some money at her inn. Alicia says she wants to book a room with a bed safe enough for a child, along with some food. Kari tells her that payment is usually made up front and it'll cost 2 silvers per night, with a minimum stay of 2 nights. Alicia hands over 4 silvers, and once the payment is made, Kari tells them their room is upstairs. Before they head to the room, Kari tells her 2 sons to help Nelu with her luggage, but Nelu insists she can carry it herself. Still, they insist on helping, and the moment Nelu lets go of the luggage, one of them struggles to hold it up because it's way too heavy for him. Phil and Pete help carry their things into the room, and Alicia is honestly quite satisfied with the decor. Before leaving, Kari tells them to just call her if they need anything. With that settled, Alicia and Nelu decide to put Luna to bed, but what they don't know is that Maynard has been watching them through the eyes of his insect minions. Now that he's confirmed Luna's location, he sends out a swarm of insects to capture the child. child. Meanwhile, Alicia stands by the window, wondering if Clevites has reached the battlefield. She then goes to check on Luna and asks Nelu if he's still asleep. Nelu replies that he'll wake up soon and shows Alicia his mouth. Alicia lights up with joy when she sees he's just gotten his first tooth. At that moment, Kari enters the room and lets them know their meal is ready downstairs. Alicia steps out and Kari points her to where the food is, so she heads over to it. On her way there, she overhears some drunk men say they heard the king of Haydn failed to kill Clevites and ended up getting killed by him. The men feel the heroes weren't doing anything to prevent the king's death. They feel that people these days only want to become heroes because they want the king's regalia. As Alicia goes to pick up her food, she hears every single opinion the citizens have about the heroes. Each insult thrown at her pierces her heart like a dagger, but she has no choice but to endure it. Suddenly, her eyes widen in shock as she senses the presence of a dark beast. That's when a red ball comes flying through the window. Everyone panics, so Pete tries to touch it, but he is instantly flung across the inn as it transforms into a huge centipede. At that moment, Maynard appears at the door and explains that these are bugs from the lands of the dark beasts. He warns everyone not to move too much. If they startle the creature, it'll attack them regardless of his commands. Alicia quickly realizes how bad the situation is and instinctively reaches for her sword, only to remember she left it in her room. Just then, one of the terrified customers panics and jumps out the window to escape. Outside, the man is immediately snatched up by one of the bugs waiting nearby. Turns out there are thousands of them out there. He's lifted into the air and the swarm devours him as a late-night snack. Maynard casually informs everyone about the swarm in case anyone else was thinking of escaping. He also reveals that he had the bugs surround the entire town, making sure no one can get out. Maynard realizes he hasn't given them a proper introduction. He bows while informing them that he's the highest wizard of General Drell's army, and his main reason for barging in like this is to see whether there's a pure-blooded Hydanian baby here or not. Things only get worse as Alicia hears Nelu scream, followed by Luna's cries. Naya, another one of Drell's wizards, had already reached them. Her orders were to come here and apprehend Luna by any means necessary. Nelu is still pinned to the wall by Naya's magic and wonders how Naya even managed to get up here since they're on the second floor. Naya calmly replies that she used her magic axe to fly up. She explains that her power lets her control gravity and also attract or repel anything made of iron. To prove it, she grabs the handle of her axe and flies into the ceiling using her repelling magic. She drops back down and says this power came from a mystic turtle with an iron shell that lives in the east. Even if you strike its shell with a steel sword, the blade will just stick to it and never come off. And if you try using a stone spear, the iron shell will just repel it. Fighting that turtle is a real nightmare. Naya then steps in front of Luna and pulls out what looks like harmless candy, but she explains it's actually mystic medicine that reveals a person's talent. If someone has magic talent, their eyes will change to a distinct color, but if they don't, they'll cough up blood and die. She tries to force it into Luna's mouth, but he struggles to resist. Naya tells him not to fight it so much because the pain won't last long. However, taking the pill means Luna will only survive if royal blood is found in his veins, otherwise he'll die. At this horrific sight, Nelu screams at the top of her lungs, catching Alicia's attention. Alicia immediately runs upstairs to help, but Maynard blocks her path by sending his centipede to stop her. Maynard isn't sure who she is, but since she's protecting the Hydnian baby, he decides she has to be eliminated. Meanwhile, Naya is still trying to force the pill into Luna's mouth, but he refuses to give in. Nelu struggles to break free from the iron restraints, but Naya tells her it's pointless since her iron can stop a charging bull. Hearing that, Nelu gets an adrenaline rush and smashes through the iron restraints, sending them flying through the wall. Maynard hears the loud crash upstairs and wonders if everything is still going as planned, until he sees a shocking sight. Alicia is now standing on top of the centipede, holding its horns and declaring she's not going down so easily. Maynard smirks, saying things just got interesting. With a swift motion, Alicia lands a powerful kick on the centipede, sending it crashing down. That single strike makes Maynard instantly recognize her as a hero. She then rushes upstairs to check on Nelu, but by the time she arrives, Naya is already unconscious on the floor. Luna is safe, and a huge hole gapes in the wall. Alicia asks if Naya was the one who made the hole in the wall, but Nelu explains that all she did was push the bed frames as hard as she could, and the next thing she knew, it looked like this. Alicia is shocked to hear Nelu made such a huge hole, but setting that aside, she tells Nelu they need to leave right away. With all these mages after Luna, they have to protect him until Clen returns. Alicia says to forget their belongings. she only needs her sword. The moment she picks it up, several bugs start surrounding them. Alicia tells Nelu not to worry because she'll handle it, but in order to escape, she asks Nelu to trust her and jump with her. Nelu doesn't have much choice, so she jumps, and as they fall, Alicia unsheathes her sword and slices all the surrounding bugs. Afterward, they run through the alley while the remaining bugs chase after them. Naya regains consciousness and doesn't want them to get away, so as a last-ditch effort, she throws her magic axe at them, but it ends up hitting one of the bugs instead. Realizing she can't get past all these bugs, she decides she'll need Maynard's help to chase them down. Still, Naya can't stop wondering how Nelu was able to break the iron bed barrier with her bare hands. Meanwhile, Alicia believes the bugs won't chase them much farther, since they were probably ordered to surround the inn only. With that in mind, they head into the forest, hoping to make it out of town, but they stop in shock when they see a wall of bugs waiting ahead. Alicia realizes she was naive to think escaping would be so easy. She can't use her dragonfly techniques too many times, so she knows she can't kill them all. In this situation, Nelu asks what they should do, and Alicia replies that the only option is to hide. Luna's safety comes first, so they decide to hide her somewhere the bugs can't reach. They then run in the opposite direction of the swarm. Back at the inn, Naya comes downstairs and apologizes to Maynard for letting them escape. Maynard asks if she at least tested Luna for magic powers, but Naya explains she couldn't because she was stopped by a woman with incredible strength. Maynard doesn't put all the blame on Naya. He also underestimated them. He recognizes Alicia as one of the 13 great heroes. He even recalls being present when General Drell fought and killed her father, so he's certain of it. The hostages overhear and are shocked to learn a hero had been among them all along. Maynard starts feeling excited, because if Alicia is a hero, it wouldn't make sense for her to be traveling with just a normal baby. That means the baby they saw today must be the one with Hydnian blood. Maynard bursts into a wild, insane laughter, saying that torturing them is going to be so much fun. Everyone, including Naya, just stares at him in confusion. After a moment, Maynard calms down and announces that he's going to gather all the townspeople in the main square. Soon, everyone is outside, and the citizens are filled with questions. They can't understand why the Bolate soldiers want them all gathered here. They point out to Maynard that there are only 4 soldiers, while they have an entire town district that could fight back. The citizens are confident they could resist if it came to a fight, but before anything happens, they want to know what Maynard's actual plans for their country are. Maynard becomes excited when he hears how bold they still are. Even so, he decides to respect their request and explain. He begins by saying that none of this would be happening if their king hadn't died in a reckless gamble. Maynard knows the citizens probably see the Bolade soldiers as an invading army, but he insists that isn't true. According to him, they've traveled here to protect the people and their lands. He explains that the Lord of Dark Beasts attacked this nation's capital, and if he comes back, the entire land will fall to the beast's power. Haydn's forces can't stop this threat, which is why Maynard and the other wizards were sent here to do everything they can to protect the human world. He assures them they're not here to steal anything from them. However, the citizens remain unconvinced. They're still surrounded by swarms of flesh-eating bugs, and those same bugs have already killed one of their people. Maynard admits the bugs did kill someone, but calls it an unfortunate accident. This casual remark enrages the citizens, but before tensions rise further, Maynard interrupts. He explains that they followed someone very dangerous to this place. He says, "This person is considered a traitor to Haydn and an enemy to all mankind. For now, she is only being hunted using the insects, so they can't blame him if one of their people was accidentally caught in the crossfire." Still doubtful, the citizens ask who this so-called dangerous criminal is. They suspect she's only a threat to Maynard, not to them, but Maynard insists she is their enemy too. With a twisted look in his eye, he reveals her name, Alicia Glenfall, the one he claims is responsible for all their pain and suffering. Maynard urges them to join forces with him to hunt her down and destroy her. Meanwhile, General Drell and his army are crossing the Haydn River when he suddenly senses another presence nearby and signals his soldiers to stop. He then calls out, ordering the hidden person to show themselves, immediately warning that if they don't, he'll come and find them himself. A bright red aura flares around Drell as he senses someone approaching. Suddenly, Commander Rod appears out of nowhere. He draws his spear and uses his regalia's frost flower technique, freezing the river the instant his blade touches the water. Drell's soldiers, now trapped knee-deep in solid ice, panic and struggle to move, but Drell himself remains completely calm. The Eslan army charges toward them, confident they now hold the upper hand. Mikkel follows close behind Rod, urging his men not to to waste this golden opportunity. Drell can't figure out how Rod's soldiers and horses can run so smoothly on the ice, until Rod explains that they're all wearing cleats. Drell's troops have no such gear, making it hard for them to even stay on their feet. Rod believes that with this advantage, his 6,000 soldiers can easily defeat Drell's 50,000. As the battle rages, Rod's army cuts through wave after wave of enemy soldiers in smooth, coordinated strikes. Drell watches and can't help but be impressed by Rod's leadership. He tells Rod that the frost flower regalia spear he wields was once used to defeat a horde of dark beasts that reached the gates of an Eslan city. Drell admires how quickly Rod has mastered its power, but he also knows the spear alone couldn't freeze an entire river at once. He guesses Rod placed wizards upstream to cool the water beforehand. Rod admits the guess is correct, but says it doesn't matter now. If he can take Drell down here, the battle will be over. Drell laughs at Rod's confidence. Rod lunges with a powerful forehand slash, but Drell anticipates the move and counters with a swift underhand strike, sending Rod flying back. Drell is surprised to see him still on his feet after such a blow, refusing to back down. Rod unleashes his vines of ice technique, but Drell dodges at the last moment. The two clash in rapid, relentless exchanges. Drell praises Rod's skill, strength, and flawless strategy, but then shoves him back, saying it still won't be enough to defeat him. In that instant, Drell unleashes his secret technique, channeling fire through his regalia to summon a massive flaming dragon claw. Rod stares in shock, realizing Drell can create physical manifestations with his weapon. But then, Drell unleashes the full power of his regalia, blasting Rod backward. Mikkel realizes his commander needs support, so he calls for soldiers to follow him. Drell explains that by fusing his regalia with the magic dark dragon, he has elevated it beyond the limits of an ordinary blade. With a single sweep, he wipes out everyone approaching. Rod realizes even Drell's own soldiers were caught in the attack. Drell then declares that anyone too weak to survive such a strike has no right to live any longer. Rod, wounded and lying on the ground, listens to Drell speak and realizes he's sounding like a madman. He asks what Drell hopes to achieve with all this. Drell turns, his eyes cold, and says his goal is nothing less than the destruction of every hero in the land. Drell feels there's no point in keeping a tradition alive that's impossible to fulfill. Because of this tradition, people often challenge unbeatable dark beast lords, fully aware they can't win. He believes that blindly trusting such legends is what caused so many deaths over the centuries. Now, Drell has decided to end it once and for all. He turns away from Rod, saying he won't kill him this time, only because the battle was entertaining. Too injured to fight, Rod can only watch in shock as Drell walks away. But just as Drell is about to cross, a sudden crash shakes the ground, sending ice and smoke flying into the air. As the smoke clears, Clevetess, the Lord of Beasts, stands before General Drell. Everyone who sees him freezes in shock. Clevetess speaks, asking if this is the Drell everyone has been talking about. Rod and the others can't believe the Lord of Beasts is casually speaking their language. Clevetess lets out a deafening roar, the sheer force nearly knocking everyone off their feet. Drell tenses but hides his fear, drawing his sword in preparation for battle. Before they can clash, Clevetess asks where the magic they use comes from. He explains that someone has been kidnapping both human and dark beast younglings, and that Drell's magic might be connected. Drell doubts the Lord of Beasts would travel all this way just to ask about that. Surely he must have more important matters. Clevetess replies that as Lord of the Dark Beasts, it is his duty to respond to threats in his territory. Anyone who crosses him will die by his claws, just like the King of Hyden did. Drell protests, arguing that he disagrees with the laws of the Dark Beasts. This angers Clevetess, who decides to end things. He stabs Drell with his tail, lifting him in the air. Even stab. He laughs uncontrollably. After a few seconds, Drell calms down, saying he always expected Clevetess to stab him, even after the attack on Hyden Castle. That's why he prepared a spell strong enough to seal Clevetess. Drell's body glows with an ominous red aura as he unleashes his dark ichor technique, causing his own body to explode. His blood wraps around Clevetess, trapping him inside a sphere of dark blood. Not long after, Drell emerges from his sword, announcing that he has abandoned his human body, becoming a full-fledged sword. He sacrificed his flesh to forge this prison of dark ichor, strong enough that even a Lord of Dark Beasts likely cannot escape. Calmly, General Drell walks away, instructing his remaining soldiers to follow him. Meanwhile, Alicia and Nelu travel through the forest, leaving the town behind. What they don't realize is that the townspeople are right behind them, heavily armed and hunting them down. That was episode 7. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.